Tommy Jarvis, who had survived the previous mass murders at Crystal Lake just years earlier and had also spent time in psychiatric confinement, was apprehended by the police late this evening here at his childhood home, which served as the scene for the Crystal Lake murders he survived 7 years ago.
Tommy Jarvis went completely off the deep end after the events at Pinehurst. He came damn close to killing a woman.
He went totally buggo. He had a hockey mask on. He was running down the hallways with a knife in his hand. I think he honestly thought the spirit of Jason had taken him over.
What are you boys doing down there? It's time for supper.
Mom, we're being interviewed.
Over time, the hallucinations and delusions seemed to dissipate, but despite the opinions of some of my colleagues, I wasn't so sure Tommy was cured.
He fooled the doctors thinking he was okay, but he wasn't. And so he got out and he went to go get Jason. And I think he got Jason. I think he did.
Yeah, I saw Tommy Jarvis when he got back in town. He's kind of cute.
Tommy had changed a lot since the last time he'd been seen in town. He even looked totally different.
Could have been plastic surgery, a disguise of some kind.
Right, to hide himself from Jason? Dude, that's awesome. Hang on. Yeah. That's going on the website.
At the time, Crystal Lake had gone through some changes.
People lost their homes and their businesses. So, like, all the entrepreneurial people, like myself, ended up working here.
Sheriff Garris was determined to get beyond the Jason stories, get things back to normal. So he did a very simple thing. He changed the name of the town. So Crystal Lake, with Jason, became Forest Green, without.
So one night, Tommy and his friend from the sanitarium show up at the graveyard, carrying shovels and a hockey mask.
And what do? They dig Jason up. Makes sense, right? Tommy wants a little closure.
This is where things get really inventive.
They say Tommy brought Jason back to life with some kind of, like, lightning bolt or something. You know, I mean, I don't know, maybe.
That's the cockamamie story that he came up with. He went running into Sheriff Garris's office, screaming up a blue streak, insisting that Jason was alive. Garris wasn't the type to suffer that kind of bullshit, so he locked him up for the night.
Why would you dig up Jason's body? Well, you want to count the maggots in his head?
Jason's final resting place had been desecrated. The grave was opened up, and Jason came back as a member of the undead. Un, from the Latin, meaning not.
Well, electricity in the form of an EKG has certainly been known to revive people from a clinically dead state, and many people have survived being struck by lightning. But a long dead, decomposed corpse being resurrected by a lightning rod, that's the stuff of old Frankenstein movies.
So, the murders begin anew, and you've got Chicken Little Tommy Jarvis running around town saying, Jason's back, scaring the hell out of everybody, when the most likely suspect in these murders, Tommy Jarvis.
That is total bullpoop. Tommy Jarvis is no more a psychopathic killer than my cat.
He was trying to stop the reanimated corpse of Jason Voorhees from going back to the campground. Duh.
But then a busload of us kids, we arrived at summer camp the next morning. You know, everything seemed fine. Until Jason showed up.
Bottom line is, there was enough evidence linking Jarvis to the Forest Green murders for Sheriff Garris to detain him. Now, whether he was acting alone, whether he had an accomplice, we don't know.
He was behind bars, so how's he supposed to commit those murders?
Astral projection.
Voodoo. Telekinesis.
Well, why the hell not? I mean, if he could believe that a zombie could kill from beyond the grave, well, why couldn't he?
Since Jason couldn't be killed by normal means, Tommy came up with a plan to return Jason to his original resting place, the bottom of Crystal Lake.
When the sheriff arrived, he rounded all of us kids into one of the cabins. And then Jason, he broke right through the door. And we were so terrified and screaming and running around, but Tommy saved us. Tommy's not a killer. He's our hero.
Tommy believed the only way he could put this demon to rest was to drown him again.
Now they'll actually have you believe that Jarvis somehow lured Jason away from these kids and into the water, wrapped a chain with a boulder attached to it around Jason's neck, and drowned him once again at the bottom of the lake. Now, the sad fact is that he got children to buy into his delusion.
Tommy did it. He buried Jason once and for all. And he was finally free.
Well, not the way we saw it. Tommy Jarvis, he was a wanted murderer. He fled and he hasn't been seen since.
Where was this mysterious reanimated corpse that was supposedly tethered to the bottom of the lake? No one's ever been able to find it. Where did it go?
Why wasn't Jason's body ever found at the bottom of the lake? Because they never looked. They knew it was out there, and they knew that some secrets are best left buried.
We dragged the lake. We found nothing. No bodies, no drowning victims, no corpus delicti.
After everything that happened, they went ahead and just changed the name from Forest Green right back to Crystal Lake.
I guess they figured that you can never escape the past.
Because the past comes back to haunt you.
Because really he is, you know, a part of our community, you know, and I think that's important, you know, to be community-minded.
But if he's out there, we ain't seeing him, he's probably just snooping on us and watching us. That's kind of pervy, that's kind of weird. That kind of scares me, a little more than the worrying about that machete he's got.
I think it speaks volumes about the state of our society that there are people who still give credibility to these ludicrous fairy tales. Jason Voorhees is dead. But what can I say? Some folks have a really strange idea of entertainment.
The Tommy Jarvis case remains one of the most fascinating and frustrating of my career. Was he a victim, a villain, or both? I honestly don't know. I wish he'd come forward. I'd still like to try to help him. But until that day comes, I hope he's safe, somewhere living his dream, far away from Crystal Lake.
That son of a bitch ever shows his face on my watch. All I can say is, I hope he's got more than just a machete at his side this time.
Tommy has my full support, my testimony, and many others. I hope one day he comes back to clear his name.
I guess only Tommy really knows what happened at Camp Forest Green.
Crystal Lake. Right. Till then, however, we are here to watch Tommy's back. We are here on the internet.
Crystal Lake is a safe, happy place. So come on, spend a summer with us. What's the worst that could happen?
I was contacted through my agent that Paramount was looking for another Friday the 13th. At the time, I had only seen the first one, so I went to Paramount and I sat there for an entire day and watched each movie back to back. And then I kind of looked at it and said, well, if we're going to do a sixth one, I feel like I can't do it dead seriously. It just felt like it needed to have some bit of a wink at the whole series. So I tried to say to the producer, Frank Mancuso, can I make this humorous? And he said, well, as long as you don't make fun of Jason, because Jason's got to be fearful. I said, absolutely not. That's part of why it would work, is because we know he's serious, and yet these other characters are sort of treating him like, oh yeah, this was a myth, this was a legend, and they sort of have fun with it.
Okay, I've got a great game. It's called Camp Blood.
Until, obviously, they meet their demise. So based on that, he gave me the green light to go ahead and write the script.
Well, we filmed at this small town outside of it, 50 miles outside of Atlanta, where they had this picturesque graveyard.
We chose the South for all the reasons of the look and the feeling that time of year, and you know, it actually really worked for us because we could kind of shoot without anybody knowing we were there. Frank was a huge fan of David Bowie, so the actual title of the movie at that time that we were hiding under was Aladdin Sane, which added again to the sort of the mystery of people trying to find out where it was and what was the title. The casting on this Friday was a little unique in that, first off, Frank Mancuso really wanted to have John Shepherd do the role of Tommy again, and he opted not to want to do the role for personal reasons. So we had to start looking for someone that would be like John in terms of a look somewhat, and then also fulfill what I wrote in the script. So Tom Matthews was the perfect candidate. Everyone else was people that had come in and, you know, and they were kind of fresh, new faces.
Okay, is this gonna be the best weekend ever? Yeah!
The decision for me to put in kids was really twofold. One, it felt like it would raise the stakes incredibly to actually have children there when all these, you know, horrible killings were going on. Oh my God. Even the little Nancy character was sort of, to me, the touchstone of all that. You know, a child shall lead them, you know, getting back to kind of basic biblical truths. And, you know, to me, innocence in a horrific situation like that makes drama all the more powerful. I can look at the movie and still feel that everybody still is kind of has that universal quality about them, that they still are kind of relatable through the ages as just, you know, fun people that are in a horrible situation.
Darren, we better turn around.
Why?
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
We'd go to a lot of horror movies, and I'd always say, I'd be pulling, going, Tommy, why would anybody do that? That's absurd.
I mean, when I first met Kevin Williamson, and he said that My Friday, when he saw that, was, you know, certainly something that had an influence on Scream, because it was, as some of the movies were at that time, you know, really kind of having fun with that genre, because we had gone, you know, we were mid-'80s, and at that point, so much had happened.
It wasn't like they were going to making some trashy film. They wanted to make the best film they could make and do the best shots and the best lighting, and Tom always kind of had a twinkle. Also because all the people in the film were getting a chance, getting an opportunity that they recognized as an opportunity, and they were happy to be there. And they loved filmmaking.
My main objective was to give the audience a sense of the old Gothic horror movies, because I was trying to set a tone right from the beginning that this was going to be like what the Universal horror movies used to be. The stormy night, going to the cemetery, digging up the grave, a monster that is actually dead, coming back and is unstoppable. If you turn the color off, this movie would look great in black and white. Over the years now, having done so many films, I really do make a difference between a film and a movie. And this, to me, was a movie. This was a ride.
Hey! So that's what's still in the books is screwing the pooch. Iron this punk.
I was a little concerned about doing it in a way. I mean, it was a terrific opportunity. And it was a big role, and it was fun. But I always, you know, there was some idea, like, what impact does this have on people?
I morally have always had a bit of a problem with the slasher genre, because lots of times it really was about taking a knife and an innocent person and doing what pretty much anybody could do. What my game plan was on this thing was to try to do kills that would be almost impossible for a human being to do. And what allowed me that was the fact that we brought Jason back, you know, from the dead with a lightning bolt. So first you got to buy that, you know. Once you bought that, then he could punch out a heart, he could twist a head off, he could cut off 3 heads simultaneously. All those particular kills in mine were really part of my feeling that I wanted to make this a supernatural killer.
There's a sense of fantasy that I think that everybody's well aware of.
Just because our parents keep telling us that Jason was only a legend doesn't mean it wasn't true. What if he did come back here?
I remember at the cast and crew screening, one surprise, not so great, was that the ratings board had a field day with the film.
Just the thing is that anytime you're doing a Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, they walk into a preconceived notion. They know this is going to be a gross, nasty movie, and we want to cut it down to make it, you know, the side of Bambi.
We did a lot of work on this triple decapitation, where we cast the actors' heads, we reproduced their bodies. It was when they're doing the paintball thing. And Jim Gill, who now runs Real Effects, who was the mechanical supervisor, did this very cool effect where the blade would actually pass through the urethane heads and hit a trigger mechanism that would launch the head and the knees would collapse. It was very, very clever, and it was all gone. And I remember right before the scene started, someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Gabe, the triple decapitation is all out." And I'm like, what are you talking about?
I think there are things now in movies that are way more intense than most Friday the 13th movies.
After I finished the movie and it came out, it was probably one of the most exciting things to go, particularly to the midnight shows on that opening weekend, and to see the reaction that the audiences had. Screaming at this, at the screens, running up and down the aisles, falling into the jokes I had set up.
One of the first things I got to do on Friday the 13th Part 6 was actually making the iconic Jason mask. And this was created from, first we had the sculpture of Jason that was done by Brian Wade. From there I created what's called a cement buck. This heavy-duty, high-temperature cement piece allowed a thick piece of plastic to actually be vacuumed over it. From there I cut off the edges, drilled out the holes for the eyes and the ventilation, and then even the slit up top from Part 3. One of the masks, unpainted. This is the heavy vacuum plastic. You can see it's really tough, and this one is already drilled out and sanded. And what would happen from here is we would attach a series of straps again, and we would align it up over the reproduction of the head, and then the final cosmetics would be painting it from the back, painting it from the front, and then sealing that.
The one thing that they really wanted me to carry through with the designs was they wanted a continuation of what Tom Savini had finished with. We had the large gash on the top of the head. We had a big slash that would kind of cut through his hand. I'd done a lot of research and looked in a lot of forensic pathology books and a lot of books on just people who'd been buried badly and dug up.
In comes CJ, and CJ was amazing because not only one of the nicest, sweetest guys, but one of the most focused. That Marine training was incredible because they'd ask him to do something and it would be yes sir, and he would execute it just like the machine that CJ seemed to embrace perfectly.
There was a bunch of stuff in Part 6 that made that film fun to work on. One of which that I worked pretty closely with was the sheriff being bent backwards and broken.
I was very flattered because the whole fight scene with Jason was not in Tom's script, and had this extended scene where you're fighting with Jason. Oh my God, They dug a hole in the ground that I stood in, and then they had an actor, and they took a pair of pants that were just like my pants, and they put the pants on his legs, and he was face down in the hole, and his legs were up behind me.
And he really just lays himself back with a great sound design effect, which they had crack. It totally looks like his vertebrae shattered.
What a ball to get to do something like that.
In the case of my wife Nancy in the sequence in the Volkswagen, all I asked CJ to do was take that spear and go right at the driver's seat, where she's sitting. And Nancy's, again, had to do her own stunts, just supposed to move out of the way so he could impale that thing into the seat. Well, the soldier in him, sees a target, and he just went right with that target, and thank goodness missed. If you watch the movie again, you'll see it just misses, nailing where she goes in the passenger seat. Made for a very exciting shot, needless to say, but, what price glory on that one.
My head had a vise under the water, and the regulator wasn't working. And the mud was going down my throat, so they had to redo that several times, and it was very scary.
But that was one of those things where it's just like we were fortunate that nothing ever bad happened through the entire shoot. No one got hurt. No one was traumatized by anything. The kids all had fun. Everybody involved, basically got away with it. Probably the most difficult thing was the big RV gag, because that really required somebody be in that thing. And it sounds easy because you think like, well, that's a very large thing, it shouldn't be dangerous. Well, it actually is, because those things are very, tinny, and you have to kind of take everything out of it, reinforce it in a way so that it doesn't collapse on the poor guy in there, and then, hit that ramp, and we can only do it once. So those kinds of things require usually a bigger budget, more time, and we were, basically, very low budget, as all these things are, and I was trying to be very ambitious in this show. When I look back and think how much we did do with that amount of money, it was pretty miraculous, but I really give the full credit to it. Just a, great crew, a great team of people all saying, yeah, let's make this one a little more special.
What I found over the years is that the audience is huge. I mean, there's very young people, and then there's people, in their 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I don't think the real power of the movie became clear to me until over these last 2 decades where it has just kept going, you know, and people who are seeing it sometimes for the first time are, you know, really having the same reaction to it as they did 20 years ago when we made it. And I think a lot of it was because we had a sense of humor with it and tried to make it look as fresh and contemporary as we could, you know, sort of party movie making at the same time. And yeah, I think of everything I've done, it probably was the most enjoyable. Okay, well, this is something pretty special, or at least certainly special for me. This is what the end of the movie, My Friday the 13th, Jason Lives, was supposed to be. Basically, I thought it would be very cool to introduce Jason's father, and that had not been done, and I always thought, well, obviously we met his mother in the first one. What was his father like? So through the wonderful invention of DVD and with the use of a wonderful story artist and the voice of Bob Larkin, who played the caretaker, we're going to show you now what I originally envisioned for the end of the movie. Now, the caretaker did not die in my first version. So here now is the end of the movie as I originally envisioned it, with Jason's father being introduced and the caretaker's role in the end of the movie in terms of what his job really was, which was taking care of Jason's grave and his mother's grave. So I hope you like it.
Jerks. What, they think I'm a fart head or something? You frightened me. I was just, you know, cleaning up the place, you know? Nice to see you again, Mr. Voorhees. Haven't seen you in Forest Green in quite some time. I've been taking real good care of your wife and son's graves. Go look. Yeah, you'll be real pleased. Oh. Thank you, Mr. Voorhees. I'll leave you in private, like you like, okay? Bye. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm hungry.
Oh, God.
Be quiet.
Guys, try not to wake the kids.
Hey!
Stay here.